But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Um, I am going to show you a teacher account, and this is the Unit 12 semester review and exam. I'm going to show you on the physics side because that's the one that I made. We've got Abby here to answer any questions on the chemistry. And also, if you look in the biology and the environmental science, you'll also see a semester review and exam. So yeah, just take a look at those. If just switch the course to look at the one that's most applicable to you, but I'm going to show you for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to show you the physics one. I'm going to kind of start at the ground up because we have some people who haven't used the site at all before. There are 3 modes. So there's a work mode, an extra practice, and assessment. So when I get to the time of the year, this time of the year where I'm ready to start doing a review and a semester exam, I use the work mode for the review for students' classwork and homework, and then I use the assessment for the exam. It's all very customizable. So if you haven't gotten to anything that I have on here for the semester review, you can easily remove it by clicking on these buttons on the right hand side. Again, I'm showing you a teacher account, but this view is essentially what a student sees. If I switch over to this tab, this is showing exactly what a student sees. So it looks basically the same, except they don't have these options on the right hand side to set due dates, to lock or remove any of these skills. I've set up 2 classes here, as you can see on the right. I'll show you at the end, if you're brand new to this site, kind of how to do that and how to get your students added. All right. Thanks, Abby. Abby just pointed out that I had switched over to Unit 1 on the physics, but now I'm back to Unit 12. So here I can show you the semester exam. Again, if you have questions at any time, feel free to put those in the chat, or even if you want to unmute yourself and ask, that works as well. All right. So yeah, let me show you when you click on any of these lessons and questions, what happens. So if you haven't used the site before, when you click on lessons and questions, it will bring up a video. This skill is reviewing free body diagram analysis. So there'll be a video, and on most of them, there'll also be some key points as well. And then we get into the questions right here. On all of our subjects, anything that's in blue is a randomized value. So it's really cool if 2 students are sitting next to each other when they they can collaborate without sharing answers. So they will have same looking problem, but it'll be different looking numbers. And then as they practice, right answers turn green and wrong answers turn red, or a little red X appears, and they can fix that. And then in the upper right hand corner, you see we keep track of a completion score. That means they got it right eventually, but it doesn't matter how many attempts, as well as an accuracy score. And that accuracy score is based on only if they got it right on their first try. And students, if they get stuck, they can click to different questions. They can click back to see the video. They can click on our reference sheet right here as well to see the equations that they would need. All right, so that is a really brief overview of what it looks like for a student to practice on the site. So then I wanted to talk about if you are new to the site, or if you're using the review, but maybe you haven't covered the first 11 units that we have. So this still is very usable for you. But if you haven't covered, for instance, let's say you haven't covered circular motion or universal gravitation, what I would recommend doing is going over here to where it says bulk remove, checking the classes that haven't covered that, and going down to those ones that you want to remove. So I want to remove circular motion and universal gravitation. And I can go ahead and click on remove. And then those will disappear for your students, and they'll be marked as removed on there. So let me pause real quick right there and just see have anyone had any questions so far. Again, we've got a relatively small group, so feel free to unmute yourself and ask away if you have a question on just kind of like using this as a review. Great. Or
Hi, Jennifer Beck.
hey, Jennifer.
Is there a way to add a lesson or add a question?
Great question. So yeah, yes, it's not super easy right now, but the way you could do that actually would be to create your own course, and then you could copy our course over. Will you remind me, Jennifer, at the end to show you, we have a new feature that's not live on this site yet, but you can actually access it on our test site that would let you copy a full skill at a time. All right. And any other questions before I show you the assessment part? All right. So yeah, next, let me go ahead and click over to the assessment. All right. So on the assessment, I'll just show you really quickly how this works. So what the assessment does is it grabs questions directly from the homework. So on this vocabulary skill, there were 18 questions on the review, and the assessment is going to randomly pull 4 questions from each of those, from that set of 18, and it's going to put it on the assessment. Then it's going to pull 3 questions from the motion concepts, 1 question from the motion charts, etc. If you want to change any of this, you can change the values here to make the question longer or shorter. I have the default set up to be 29 questions long. I usually give students, and I think we had an hour-and-a-half exam block, and that was plenty of time for them to do the 29 questions. If you wanted to make it longer or shorter, you also can. So again, we're over to assessment mode, and then as a teacher, you can preview the assessment by clicking right here. Great question, Justin. So Justin said, do all students get the same exact question or different randomly? Gotcha. So how it works is, of these 18 vocabulary questions, when a student clicks on the assessment for the first time, it's going to randomly pull 4 different questions of those 18. So all of your students are likely going to have 4 different questions from each other. Additionally, if the question is numerical or involves any randomization, then that question is also going to be re-randomized. So if I go into the assessment and go to one of my later questions that's numerical, these numbers that the student sees, those will be different than when they saw them on the homework. Justin, will you let me know if that answered your question? All right, and then perfect. Okay, and Dan asks, is there a way to tell when a student has completed the assignment? Yeah, I was going to show this. I can also show this a little bit later, but if I duplicate this tab, I'm going to go to the teacher student scores page. This is a dummy account, so I don't have a bunch of stuff in here. But if I change on the assessment to a particular skill, and again, none of these dummy students have accessed it just yet. So let me look at the teacher. If you clicked on, and I'll go to the work, and hold on just a second. We did free body diagram drawing analysis. Yeah, so in anytime you go to the student scores, if you change all skills to a particular skill and you click on the problem itself, you'll see a lot of details about the problem, including when the student opened it and when they last answered it, as well as the random numbers that they received. And yeah, Dan, let me know if that cleared it up for you. All right, but anyways, back to the assessment. So on the assessment, it works slightly differently than, it looks very similar to the assessment, or to the homework, feels very similar, but there is one small twist. So then as students practice, and let me get our faces out of the way so I can see this. So if a student gets an answer right, so this normal force, because we have that TY right there, is going to be 350. And then the net force should be 50, but I'm going to put in 90. So you'll notice that initially the answers are going to lock. So on the homework, they could fix it right away. On the assessment, they need to wait until they're done with the assessment. And then once they're finished with everything, they can click finalize. And then if I go back to whatever question that was, then I can actually start fixing it right here. So then when I put in 50, you'll see that I get this separate correction score that starts to increase. Yeah, so I generally, again, if I go back to the dashboard, I have my students complete this. It takes about a week, 1 to 2 weeks for a student to complete this. It's a pretty thorough review of everything that we have in our course through universal gravitation. I have them complete that for a grade, and that'll prepare them really well to take the assessment, which I use for my final exam grade. We also have this mode called extra practice, and this is just a mode that I allow students to use this just for studying. It again pulls questions directly from the homework and gives them an additional chance to practice on those. All right, let me pause right there. I'm happy to show people I know people who already use positive physics already know the logistical stuff and have their rosters and everything set up. I'm happy to show our newer users that. But first, I just wanted to pause to see if anybody had questions about setting up the review and exam, or even any content specific questions.
So when they do the corrections, how does that affect their score that I see?
Gotcha.
Do we see 2 different scores?
Yeah, exactly. So they'll see the original score that was like before they made any corrections, and you'll also see the correction score. And then we just allow some teachers average those together. Some teachers put them in as 2 separate grades. We'll just let you handle that however you'd like.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Great question. And yeah,
I guess I have a question too, and I see maybe it's similar popping up.
Sure.
I've been just allowing kids just one chance really, and not really doing corrections. I don't know if that's really kind of different than what most people do. It just feels like I guess I've seen in the past, if you allow a lot of corrections or things, they don't really do it the first time, but I don't know, maybe I'm kind of in the minority here. I don't know.
Yeah, I think on mine, like I do personally, like I do like to allow corrections. I know, but teachers handle it lots of different ways, and kind of we want to build a tool that works really well for you, and then you use it however you'd like. Some teachers average the 2 together. Some teachers give a grade for corrections. Some teachers don't, or other teachers allow, if a student does the corrections, then they allow them a retake. And maybe give them a retake, but don't give them but also like a deduction after that. Okay. So yeah, just people use this site, and I'm really always really interested because people use it in all sorts of different ways. And so yeah, I would just say whatever you think works best for like the students that you're teaching and the best is probably the best option.
I may interject here. My classes this year, I'm finding when I do let them do the correction, it's kind of handicapping them because they will just try to find the answer and not really learn the question. And so didn't seem to have that as much in the past. So yeah, I think I'm going to do accuracy, and if the student asks for to retake, then I can reset it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm talking about lessons, everything, not just the test, but
gotcha.
Lessons and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Craig's talking on here about the completion and the accuracy score. And again, like Shana asked before, we'll give you both of those 2 scores and then let you decide what's best for your students. My personal opinion is on homework, I like to grade only on completion. And if a student has a low accuracy score, that's going to show up on the assessment. And I actually think even if students are, so yeah, some students, maybe they guess their way through the homework, but if they do that, they're not going to do well on the assessment. And I actually think that's a super important lesson for them to learn, even if they have to learn it the hard way. Let me look at the other questions in the chat. Nanette also was asking about the corrections. I think we policy. I think we addressed that. Dan said, "Is there a way to get a composite score of the original and the correct score on an assessment?" If you look at your teacher scores, student scores right here, probably the easiest way to do that is when you're looking at the assessment. Is just to use Excel. If you click on this little gold button, you can copy all. Sorry, switch from original to correction. You could copy these again, paste them into an Excel sheet, and then average the two from there. Gotcha. Kevin said, "Can I stop them from looking back at the work section when taking the assessment?" Yes. So actually in the settings, if you scroll down, there is something that says auto lock during assessment, and this will automatically lock the work in the extra practice when an assessment is in progress. So that's one way to do it. But I don't think there's I think the best way is just to make sure that in general, when students are taking a test on a computer, just so that they're not doing something else like Googling answers, is to just make sure that you do keep generally scanning the room from time to time and keep your eyes on their screen. One thing that we did to make that a little bit easier is if I again go to my dashboard and go to assessment, you'll notice that while students are navigating the site, the top bar is locked to the top and it's always blue unless they're in assessment mode. And let me hit restart right here. Then when they're in assessment mode, the top bar is black. So it's pretty easy just to if you're in the back of the classroom and you can see their screens, make sure you see that black bar across the top if they're taking an assessment. Once they finalize, then the top bar will turn green. And so sometimes my students will finish, then they'll start getting out their notes. I'm like, oh, it's green at the top. That's fine. They can use their notes as they start to make corrections. Okay. Yeah, Jennifer said my students do the corrections on the same day that they take the test. I actually really like that. They hit finalize and they immediately just start working on it. Gotcha. Brandy does something similar, half the points back. Gotcha. Great. Great. Yeah. Any other questions in general about just how to what the student experience is going to look like on the homework, on the assessment, or any other questions on that before I show you some of the logistical stuff? And actually, real quick, before I do that, maybe I'll let Abby talk real quick. I'll just kind of explain what's on the physics one, and then I'll show you the chemistry one. And Abby, if you just want to touch on kind of where we put in the what topics are on the chemistry semester review and final. So on the physics one, we have motion, including two-dimensional motion. And then we have forces, including friction system, diagonals, and inclines, as well as circular motion and universal gravitation. These ones that say challenge are really honors or AP level questions. They're a little more numerical than typical AP style questions. On the physics, we have exactly AP style multiple choice questions. So if you click into these ones, these are really good if you teach AP Physics 1. These are really good AP style questions. Every question has about 4 different versions, and they also have explanations on them. So this is really helpful in preparing students for the AP test. They're sorted by topic. So if you haven't, so sometimes on the AP test, some of those questions are they have energy along with motion in the same question. These ones really isolate that one particular topic. We also did add, if you're going faster, we did add energy and momentum at the bottom. By default, they aren't on your assessment or review, but you can add them. They're by default, they're set to bonus, but you can just click here to make them, click on restore, and then they'll become part of it, because we know that some people do our units 13 and 14 before the semester. Okay, then that said, my students just hate the multiple choice challenge questions, but I don't teach AP Physics, so maybe that's okay. Yeah, so I probably wouldn't give them to students unless they're preparing for AP, but that's where you can just always, on the right-hand side, just make sure that they're set to bonus. Yeah, the AP questions do a lot of times feel like trick questions, and so I don't recommend them for students who aren't in a class where they're expected to do that. I always want to make sure that the site is called Positive Physics because it's supposed to be a positive experience for the students. Oh, Wayne said, is there a way not to show the live score during the assessment? Not yet, but I do appreciate the feedback. That's something we've heard a few times, and so it's something that is on our super long list of potential improvements. All right, let me hand it over to Abby. Abby, I'll just keep sharing my screen, but I'll flip over to the chemistry. By the way, if you are new to the site and using chemistry, you'll notice that there are 2 courses on here. We highly recommend the updated one. That's Chemistry 2023-2024. And Abby, let me turn it over to you.
Perfect, thank you. So so on our semester review for chemistry, it follows the same order as the units on positive chemistry. So we started out with some math and science skills. Then we go through density first, and then we start looking at first like atoms, so with properties of matter and the periodic table. And then we go in on electrons next. So if you scroll down a bit more, Jack, thank you. We go into the Bohr model, and if you choose to do the quantum mechanical model, then we have that as well. Obviously, as Jack has mentioned, you can remove any questions that aren't relevant for your students. And yeah, following that, we've got periodic table trends. So that's all the kind of electrons-based stuff. And then we start getting into bonding. So we've got general questions on bonding and structures. And then we've got ionic bonding and covalent bonding. And then finally, we get into some reactions. So we've got balancing equations, different types of chemical reactions. And then finally, we've got some stoichiometry there as well, using moles and mass. So that's basically everything on our semester 1 review.
Gotcha. And that reminded me real quick. There's one other thing that I wanted to show you. I'm gonna go back to the physics side real quick. I showed you how to remove an entire assignment. So like, I just clicked on here. If you didn't want to do inclined forces, you can click on remove. That'll get rid of that. But if you are removing things, especially on the physics side, please make sure you also look through the vocabulary and the concepts. And if there is a question, like if you want to keep the whole skill, but there's a question that you don't like, so this is a circular motion question, so I want to get rid of this one, there is the remove problem button right here. And then you can say, okay, I want to remove that for everyone, or I want to keep it for my class B, my honors class, but remove it for my class A, or even fancier things like, okay, I want my class B students to see this on the homework mode, but I don't want it to show up on their assessment. So if you want to remove a whole skill, do that from the dashboard. If you want to remove individual problems, you can do that from here. All right. A couple other things. So Abby showed you the chemistry. On the environmental science. This is set up in the units follow the AP one. This is probably our most tailored to AP environmental science. On here, it is that last one. It's the one that says Unit 5, but it's the 4th Unit 5 right here, semester review and exam. It covers units 1 through 5 of the AP. And then on biology, this one is still under construction, but it'll be ready for the end of the week. So there's still just a few more that need some skills added to them. Shayna asked a great question. She said, is there a way to see all the questions available in the pool? Yes. So, sorry, going back to the physics. If I get to the semester exam, yeah, so all the questions available in the pool, that's all the questions that are on the homework. So the homework, if you're in work mode, it shows you like the 24 questions that are in this skill. And then these are the 24 questions that are in the pool for it to pull in onto the assessment. So yeah, if you want to see all of the questions in the pool, just make sure that you're in work mode and you'll see everything. All right. Great, cool. Any other questions before I show you some of the logistical side? Great. So as I do this, all right, Jackie said, can you print exams? Yes. So that's a perfect transition to the teacher features that we have right here. So on the teacher side, the manage rosters is pretty self-explanatory, but let me show you the other one. So we have print work problems right here. And so what I like to do on the physics side, especially, is to print anything that says problems. So like vocabulary, motion charts, I probably don't, in concepts, I probably don't need to print. And then I'm going to get rid of a few of these, but anything that says problems or these last skills down here, I'm going to go ahead and print those and then exclude the rest. So yes, I always give students a grade for what it says on the computer, and then I also give students a grade for showing their work. So once you have decided what you want to print, then go ahead and click print right here. And you'll notice that it'll generate a PDF for you. Since every student has random values in their questions, that when it shows up on here, it's going to take a minute since this is 30 pages long, since it's a pretty long assessment or long work. Yeah, on here, so you'll see that anywhere that it would be a randomized value, there's a blank, so students fill those out, and I have them turn this in and give them credit for it. I also realized that, Jackie, I'm sorry, I misread your question. I'm showing you the work, how to print out the work right now. Yes, there's also a way to print out the exam. So if you go here and go as a teacher to go to your assessment, once you get into your assessment, you can go ahead and click print right here. So at the bottom, and this will actually print, you can do a couple things. So this will print, since every student's getting a different version of the assessment, this is printing your version. So, but you can give that to the student, like if they're students, a lot of teachers have asked about this, especially for IEP students. You can print right here. And this will print out the exam with the numbers that you're seeing on your account. If you want another version, I'm not going to wait for it to actually show up. You could also print out the answer key that goes along with it so you can grade easily. If you want to be able to print out multiple versions, all you'd have to do is, once you've printed out that and printed the answer key, click restart right here. It'll give you a brand new version, and now you can print again. All right, Jackie's nodding, so I think I answered that. I think I answered that question. Mary said, do the questions come in the same order as what is on their exam? Yeah, so within each skill, the questions are randomized. But so like these 4 vocabulary questions, it'll be 4 of those 18 in a randomized order, but the test, the exam is going to follow the same way as you see on here. So it's going to be, first, it's going to be an extrapolate problem, then a vocabulary, then 4 vocabulary, then 3 motion charts. So it'll be in that order. So they're randomized within each skill, but the skills are always going to be in order. And Mary, let me know if that made sense. Great. So yeah, again, we also looked at the student scores earlier. You can see anything you could possibly want to see about what your students have done. You can see when your students have logged in. I know that Jennifer asked me to show you the advanced a little bit later. The other thing I wanted to point you to was I just redid the help/FAQs page. And so if you are new to this, basically the first things you'll have to do after you're creating your account is to go to your settings and get set up. There's a video that takes you through it right here. I'll show you it momentarily as well. And then there are 2, soon to be 3 methods for adding students. You can have the students create their own accounts. You can have, if you have a spreadsheet with your students on them, you can have them create it that way. And probably by the end of this week, we'll release it that you can also just automatically pull your students in from Google Classroom if you use that. But yeah, I can show you a little bit of that right now. So just the first step you'll want to do, I'll go through this really quickly because those directions are pretty good in there, is that you just, the first thing you want to do is to go into your settings and have, make sure you activate all the class periods that you teach, give them a name that makes sense to you. And then you can either have your students create their accounts from the dashboard or from the homepage. They'll say, I'm a student. Yes, my teacher uses this site, and they'll put in your classroom code. If you do it this way, just a couple things to keep in mind. The classroom code is, it's the same for all of your classes. Then after they validate it, they'll select which class they're in. By default, we only ask for a username and password. If you want them to put in their email or you want them to allow them to register with Google, you've got to change these to say yes. If you want them to be able to log in with Google, just make sure that your Google administrator has listed us as a trusted app to allow Google single sign-on, because Google changed their policy earlier this year. Great, I think, okay. Any other questions before I get to Jennifer's question about kind of creating your own custom unit? All right, great. Well, this one gets into the weeds a little bit. So yeah, I'll go ahead and show you this. But if you wanted to take off, I think we've gone through the basics. If you haven't used the site before, I'd strongly encourage you, use it one time with your students, just try it. And if you haven't done something that gives them instant feedback and it's really positive and randomizes the value, it's pretty amazing how it, like when I first started using this with my students, how it changed my class. So definitely try it. Again, the semester, the first 5 units and all of the semester exams are completely free on all of our courses. So try it out. We really want you to use it. If you decide you really like it and you want to use it later, great. Our prices are always super affordable. If your school won't pay for it, we do pay what you can pricing. I know a couple people they're in the audience right now, took advantage of that and just made a donation based on whatever worked for them. And we give you full access for that. I built this out in my classroom. Abby was a teacher as well. We really want this to help people. But yeah, thank you again for coming. If you want to stick around and have more questions, I'm happy to answer those. And I'm going to show Jennifer the advanced create feature. But yeah, if you got to hop off, enjoy your evening. And thank you so much for coming. All right, and yeah, now let me go ahead and I will answer Jennifer's question. So Jennifer, actually, do you mind just kind of re-asking? It was at the start and I slightly forgot what you were saying. So
if I have taught a particular concept that does show up on the semester exam, is there a way that I create a question or 2 on a particular concept that I can include?
Gotcha. Okay. Your audio was kind of weird. So, but I think I understood enough of what you were saying. So there isn't a way to modify the courses that we've created, but there is a way to create your own course and you can copy our stuff over. And actually part of this is brand new. So there's one thing that'll make it significantly easier. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to log into our test site and show you, because we've added a feature. It'll be hopefully live on the main site by the end of the week. All right, so you can always go to advanced. The way to do it would be to go to advanced and to go to create courses, units, and skills, and you'd end up creating your own course. So I'm going to call it Ms. Beck's course. Once you do that, then let's just add one unit and we'll call it Ms. Beck's semester review, and we'll call it unit 1. All right, so then you can, a couple different things. You can start making skills. And then you'll, when I go back to the dashboard, you'll notice that now Miss Beck's course is an option. And so, and it has this one skill, but doesn't have any questions available in there yet. So then, if you want to copy one of our questions over, you can go into any of these and you can look up like what is the name of the question. And you can copy it over. And that's how you could copy it over one by one. So now when I go to like insert questions, I could go to Miss Beck's course, and to add a question, I'd click on Miss Jennifer, that would be just for your account. Nobody else could see this. So then when you could start adding our questions over into your course. If you wanted to use the whole review, and I think you're like, oh, there's just 1 or 2 things that I wanted to change. When you go into this create courses, units, and skills, there's this new feature called clone skill. So you could go to physics. Let's say you wanted to copy our vocabulary over. You could also just click that one button. And now when I go back to, now I'm lost a little bit, but when I go back to your course, now it's just automatically copied over all of those 18 vocabulary questions into this one skill. So the long answer to your question, or the short answer to your question is you can't, so no, you can't just add a couple questions to what we have, but you can create your own custom course. And when you create your own custom course, you can do whatever you want with it. Jennifer, will you let me know, maybe in the chat, because your audio is a little bit goofed up, if that made sense?
Yes, thank you. Woohoo!
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I guess we still have a few people on. Does anybody else have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask if you've got them. Oh yeah, Justin, somebody asked me something very similar. So then if you want to just get rid of a question from your course, you could do the thing I showed you earlier, but probably the better thing to do it just to completely remove it from your course is when you go into, when you go to insert questions. So now when I look at the vocabulary one here, I should be seeing, sorry, I don't know why it's popping up, but I should be seeing, I should be seeing those, and I should be able to just remove one. I did this exact same thing earlier. I'll have to take a look at it. All right. Wayne asked, any plans for Canvas or other LMS integrations? Yes. So we are working on that right now. It is a beast. The first one we're doing is Google Classroom. We did a survey a while back, and that's like the most popular LMS for our teachers. But we are looking at Canvas as the second one, and Schoology is the third. Canvas and Schoology are significantly more difficult than Google Classroom, but we're working on it. We're hoping that some people can start testing it late in the spring with it as a full go for next school year. All right. Yeah, any last questions? All right. Well, if you think of any questions later, if you go to Positive Physics and look at the homepage, my email is all over the place. You probably got emails from me as well, like reminding you about this. So yeah, if you have questions at any time, please reach out. I am always here to help. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And yeah, thanks so much for the kind words. Also, for those of you who I've emailed with a ton or even got to meet in person, it was great to see your names pop up. Thanks again, everyone. All right. Bye.